Hello, everybody. I'm Phil, and here's Angela as well.
Good afternoon. Lovely to see you. Hi, Osgay.
Hi.
It's great to see you. And yeah, thank you. Welcome. And Neil and Tessa as well. So what we'd love to do this afternoon is to spend some time kind of understanding a little bit about post-conventional leadership, to understand what that means in the kind of context of Holos, and how we really support that personal and professional growth. It's kind of, we've talked a lot about what's required to be both reliable and adaptable as a leader. So yeah, really looking to get underneath the skin of that. So yes, this afternoon, what we're going to look at is a little bit more in depth about leadership. What does it take to be a facilitator of change? And leadership we're talking about at any level and at every level. And what we want to focus on is getting you to have an explore and to look in groups. We're going to do some small group work around what are the skills and qualities that are needed to ensure sustained success. So we'll share a bit about the context of leadership and what Holos, kind of the post-conventional leadership context, and then getting you to kind of talk around the skills and qualities that are needed to ensure that you can that way of being, but also that way of leading in any organisation or any group team. And then also what's necessary, that personal stretch required in order to achieve that. And again, getting you to talk about that together, and then coming back to share that using the real hive mind to share ideas. So a really interactive session. And then some thoughts from Holos around how we support leaders to be facilitators of change, how we support the skills, the language, and some of the Holos models as well that we share that enable that transformation to occur. And a bit about what we do within Holos, which is what we call future-proof leadership, a program that we run. So over to Phil, who's going to tell you a little bit more about our context. What is this context that we're talking about, Phil?
Thanks, Angela. Yeah, so we just want to throw in a couple of core concepts here before we get into some discussion. A phrase that we use a lot in Holos is we talk about a post-conventional world, post-conventional business. So we really ought to define this, because on this rests our approach to future-proof leadership. And those people, I'm going to have to pick on people because we haven't got that many people in the room. And I don't know how to pronounce your name. Ozgia, is it?
Ozgia.
Thank you, Ozgia. Have you come across the phrase post-conventional?
Yes.
Yes. What do you understand by it?
I'll try to say it in my own words. I can say, like in the session Ufuk was talking about, it's beyond time, I guess. I mean, something you have to do in the way you are not used to doing it.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I should have known someone with an official Holos backdrop would have had an answer to that question. Yeah, and we've got for our purposes today, we've got a really simple way of thinking about it. Clearly, post-conventional means we've moved beyond a time when things were done conventionally, so they have to be done in new ways. And the important point about this is we're familiar with the idea of disruption. That in this kind of post-conventional environment, things are being disrupted all the time. New digital businesses emerge that completely upend our way of doing it and so on. But it isn't just about being disruptive. That would be like digging a tunnel without shoring it up behind you as you go. So to be truly post-conventional, you have to find a way of working that is not just disrupting things, but is also reliable in being able to continue what it is you have disrupted and how you've disrupted it. And also being bold enough really to disrupt yourself before someone else comes and disrupts you is really fundamental to this. So I think the only other thing to say, I was just thinking, do I want to say much more? Because I'm trying to keep it simple, but this definition works at an individual level, it works at a team level, works at an organization level, it works at a system level. So it is a philosophy about how to approach the world. And when we think about future-proof leadership, which we will be doing, we need to use this as our context, because this is what you are future-proofing yourself against. Now, all bets are off when things are disrupted, and one of the skills that we are encouraging leaders to have, and this brings us back, and we will come back to this question about why we talk about facilitation so much when we talk about leadership, is that you are going to have to work interactively, collaboratively and collegiately with others in order to find the truth. You cannot do anything on your own. You can't just go off and lead something and have all the answers. So for that, you've got to find a perspective in your leadership that is about being, if you like, interdependent. And I'm not going to say anything more about that because Angela's going to throw in some thoughts on that topic.
Hey, thank you, Phil. So this is an amazing North Star that I personally find really, really useful. And what it is, it's a fabulous model that was developed by the Centre of Creative Leadership around what we call emotional maturity. So stereotypically, we have 5 levels that often equate to age, but what also equates to is where at any point in time we are emotionally, in what state we're in, and therefore from what place we lead. So the 5 stages that we have there are self, dependent, independent, interdependent, and integral. And self, the world exists to serve me. This stereotypically, you can see on the left-hand scale there, is up to the age of 5, where what I demand from the world, I get. Dependent is that I like rules, I like frameworks, and I like people to give me validation. So I'm dependent on other people and their validation, their rules, and the way they set up the environment in order to function and to perform really well. Independent stereotypically is at the teenage years, where we want control, we want to make our own decisions, we want to be in charge. And how that kind of manifests often is that because I want this so much, it creates winners and losers. So therefore I'm my priority versus yours. And it's quite binary in thinking in that way, either or, black or white, right or wrong. And often what you see is that it's me and people like me against the world. You know, we're very tight in our groups, and we are looking for and want control, high control. And then we get into interdependent. And interdependent is a place where we are working together with people, we collaborate. Vulnerability and trust are really key to how we are able to connect, communicate, interact together. And because of that fluidity in relationships and that trust, then we get high creativity, we get really fulfilling relationships, great work, fabulous collaboration, great teamwork. And then integral is where we see the whole system. We can see how everything fits together, how it's a bit like a child's mobile. If you think of it with the string, if you touch one part, the whole mobile will change. And this is where we can appreciate that whole big picture thinking. And we really seek that sustained success at a universal level, the whole system level. So how that works out in businesses and organizations, well, you can see the trigger line down there. The trigger line, that dotted line, is around how we are emotionally triggered. So to the left of the trigger line is where we are triggered, our emotional defenses are heightened. Therefore, we go into a defensive state, fight, flight, freeze, appease, tend, befriend, whatever way that manifests for the individual in whatever context, so that they then are very narrow in their focus. it's a case of survival, as our defence system will see that. And to the right is where we're able to be open, to be free of that defensive reaction, to be able to collaborate and trust and work together with vulnerability. And for leadership and post-conventional leadership, the key is around working to the right of the trigger line, where we ourselves are able to sustain being in that state and supporting others to be there as well. That enables us to be the best version of ourselves and also support others to be the best version of themselves too. So this is what we are really building the muscle of throughout all of what we do within Holos, and all of the work that we do in terms of individuals, teams, cultures, and whole organisations. So the programme, as I say, is around that. And what we often find is that this isn't a fixed state. This is also a process. So we learn and we grow and we gradually are in one state more and more. However, we get triggered below the line by certain people, situations, contexts, and learning to overcome that triggering and recover from it quickly to be able to get to the right-hand side of that trigger line is a real skill, and it can be learned, and it's also developed into, you can develop it into a way of being as well, which for future-proof leadership is absolutely key. Okay. So that's kind of the overview there. So what we would love you to do is, kind of however you consider yourself and however you arrive here today, we would love for you to be involved in a discussion. I'm going to put you into groups potentially. We'll see. Hopefully, everyone's able to be involved. And what we'd like you to do is to discuss and agree the most important skills and qualities you need for sustained success in a chaotic and complex environment, so that you're able to maintain being to the right of that trigger line. No presentation required, but what we'd like to do is to then share the answers.
What I was going to say is that is this business of being able to remain lucid whilst in intense activity, which is very much the same as this triggering thing. How do you remain lucid? How do you remain compassionate when highly stressed? And it's that's a tough bar. It's a really tough thing to do. So I think it's we need to cut people a little bit of slack on this, but equally I think there's an awful lot of people in senior positions who lack that self-awareness to even know that that's what's going on. So I think there's a bit in here about self-awareness and emotional regulation that I think we want to add into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. Once again, it doesn't matter how long we go on with the virtual environment, I still can't get over the joy that when breakout rooms, all you have to do is say, it's time to come back to the main room, and press a button, and everybody's here. It's just marvelous. That's digitization for you.
The whole benefit of digitization.
You don't have to do your long presentation. It's fine. It's all taken care of. All right. It would be great to hear from some people. We had a really good discussion in our small group, and I can feed back on their behalf. But just anybody want to shout out something that you think is for you the kind of main answer to that question that we're asking about the skills and qualities in this context that we're looking at? You know you want to, come on.
So I was with Egley. I can't resist these things. I was with Egley, and I think we had three highly interrelated aspects or skills here. So human and compassionate, holding a vision and direction and purpose, and self-awareness and emotional regulation. And it's really the interplay between those three rather than separating them out in any way.
Yes, No, that's beautifully. That's very elegant. Thank you to that group. And we actually did touch on that with the idea of the state that you keep yourself in as a leader / facilitator being of primary importance. That if you are approachable, if you're positive, if you send out positive signals, you will become automatically a role model, and you will enable people to be more interdependent and interactive with you. Was one of the themes that came out of ours. Great. I'll do the lazy way then. Angela, what would you like to say from the group you were in?
Well, I was with Eglay and Neil, so.
Oh, I see. Oh, right.
You've got another group to hear from.
That went well.
I can go for our group if that's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Oscar, yeah.
And we thought questioning the status quo, continuously having a curious mind, and knowing that there's not one answer is and nothing is definitive is some of the mindset, attitudes or characteristics that we can have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. And that actually, yes, dovetails as well with point that Gulam was making in our group, that he said it very simply, that you can't be too rigid in your thinking if you're going to succeed. And we linked that to listening, just listening more than you speak, in that sense. Anything that hasn't been said yet? So anybody got anything that they discussed that you don't feel has been represented?
Well, Phil, we talked about the mindset of being able to hold contradictory perspectives and holding them lightly without having to be right or wrong about anything, and having that ability to engage in collaborative conversation where you can play with the contradictions.
Thank you, Paola. That's a pretty core concept actually, and I'd like to come back to that in a minute when I do something in the way of summary. Okay, good. Anything else?
One thing that sorry, hello everybody.
Hi, William.
Hello. One thing that jumped out when you were talking about the positivity dynamic and the listening dynamic. I think oftentimes, you can come in on a Monday morning or a Friday evening, and everyone's like, oh yeah, always be positive. And I think one thing that leadership either forgets or leadership can engender is, I think a lot of the time people forget, like, you have a choice in the morning how upbeat you sound, or whether to send a smiley face or whatever emoji with your morning Teams message. And I think the problem can be sometimes is that a lot of people in the team, or even you yourself sometimes, can forget that you have that choice, the choice to be positive. I mean, oftentimes that choice is taken away from us with life circumstances. But something that maybe break the status quo is just how we engage now. We've been given a gift with technology, so like it's interesting to think about the choice you have to be positive and whether or not you allow yourself to make that choice.
Absolutely. I think there's also, and I mean, this sort of takes me to one of my own favorite topics, which is, what does it mean to be authentic? Because of course some people will say, well, if I'm being authentic, I'll just snap at everyone because that's how I'm feeling. But I think there is a difference between experiencing a feeling and the way in which you talk about or express the feeling that you're experiencing. And this is slightly different from what you're saying, William, but I think it's another way in, is that it is sometimes okay when somebody says, how are you, to say, well, actually, I'm not great at the moment, but don't worry about it. I'm not going to let it get in the way. As opposed to saying, fantastic, like somebody who's been on a sales course. You may get a more authentic dialogue going with people in the team, but that again is, of course, part of authenticity is exactly what you're describing, is the judgment about how to choose what behavior is going to be most appropriate, what version of me is going to be most appropriate in a particular moment. Let me ask you as a group, we've chosen to kind of take the idea of a facilitator and a leader, and also a coach we're mentioning sort of in there somewhere. But if you think of facilitation and you think of leadership, we've chosen to propose that there's a kind of Venn diagram of them that's coming closer together here. You may not agree with that, but I'm just interested in the thoughts that anybody has, whether from a facilitation end or a leadership end, about what is it about the combination of them that might be particularly useful at the moment in the current climate.
It feels like facilitation. So I'm formally not a leader, but I do a fair bit of facilitation work. And as a facilitator, your goal is often to take a group and help them get somewhere as a group. And I feel like that quality of a leader, to be able to unify and to bring people together and get them to work together on one cause, like that's so closely linked, as being able to facilitate conversations and being able to get people to hash out differences in opinion in a healthy way and bring their skills and qualities to the space that you're in. I think I've seen leaders do this in the past, and it's super effective. And as a leader, especially if you have a really strong vision and you know where you want to get to, having that skill at your disposal is invaluable, and almost feels like you'll have a hard time getting stuff accomplished without it. I don't know if people agree or disagree with that.
Yeah,
sorry. I love that. I love that. The only bit I was going to add to it is that I mean, I love words, and facilitator is literally making stuff easy for people, and that's not totally included in the word leadership, but maybe it should be. But to Egle's point there, you know, actually, if we make things easy for people, that can be a really powerful way of creating change. So yeah.
Yeah.
And sorry, Phil, if we were talking about the word coach, you know, often in a coaching relationship, it's often a co-creation, isn't it? Whatever happens and whatever emerges, whether it be the relationship or the outcome, it's a co-creation, and I'd say that would really talk to it as well.
Absolutely, thank you. Those are all brilliant points, and I'm going to move into another exercise in a moment, another discussion for you. But I think I just want to highlight that what we're not saying is leaders need to be more like facilitators, full stop. Because actually one of the, or certainly what I find as a facilitator, which is the end I come from, is that in a greatly disrupted age, participants that you work with are demanding that you be more of a leader, because they want you to give them the answers. They want you to provide some certainty and a way out. So you've got to resist that kind of being pushed into an old school way of being a leader, just as leaders have got to resist the kind of command and control and become more facilitative. So it's something that I think that we're all wrestling with and will wrestle with as we move on. So let me give you another discussion topic. What can you see the slides still?
No.
No, okay, that's all right. Let me bring it back. Okay, and of course it's, oh, here it is. Right, so that was the one we just did. That was the debrief. Okay, so I think we've got a pretty leading edge set of qualities and skills that you come up with there. So from what you can remember of the discussion, think about you having to embody these in your work, whether your work is leading a team or leading an organization or facilitating or coaching. But we want you to think please about two aspects of this: professional development, that you might say the qualities that you bring to the work that you do, and personal growth, which is how you evolve and develop personally in a way that supports the ways that you need to develop professionally.
Welcome back.
We needed about another 3 hours. Can we go back?
But it's wonderful to see that everyone was taking it right up to the wire before coming back. So obviously some really in-depth discussions, and really keen to hear from you. So who would like to kick off with some of their thoughts, you know, kind of what you shared within the group?
Tanwood.
Yeah. So there wasn't too much time, but we sort of discussed some of the qualities that were mentioned before, and I chose self-awareness as possibly the most important one for me. with regards to developing in those areas. And I shared a story, and then that was all the time that we had. So I'm really sorry for taking up all of the time, group.
You didn't.
But yeah, it would be interesting to know some tools around how to develop your own self-awareness and what people do around that as well, if we had more time.
Fabulous. Well, so yes, but and appreciating within that, you know, it takes time, and certain tools are helpful. So, and yes, we can share some more of those, you know, kind of in discussion at the end. But time and practice is one of the key ways of embodying the skill of self-awareness. Fantastic. Other thoughts?
Well, Angela, if I may, on behalf of our group, we came up with some questions as well as some thoughts. So our thoughts were really very much about, you know, this word embody and being in a very conscious, intentional state more often in order to embody. Because we do operate as human beings by default. We do lean into what we're comfortable with, and of course we've spent much of our adult life acquiring skills and knowledge, and suddenly we're invited to let go, or not let go, but find the right moment to lay down our tools and just be in that place of curiosity. And that requires that conscious, intentional state that perhaps we need to spend a bit more time doing, or being rather than doing, and using reflective practice as a way of getting better at that embodying bit.
Nice, very, very nice. And it ties in beautifully as well. Dipti had a session yesterday about what she called the emojic or mojic balance, which was between the logic and the cognitive and the emotional and behavioral and relational. And, you know, kind of how we are in continual shift within that balance is so important, and being able to do so quite consciously and deliberately, as you say, it's a real skill and something that, you know, kind of is built over time and like muscle. And it is a skill, it can be learned. Fabulous. And other thoughts? Any other thoughts through from the groups at all? I think we've got one.
Well, we had 4 in our group, Angela, so the chances are, I think we've all debriefed.
Yes, fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so thank you. So what we want to do is share a little bit about, or how do we do that in Holos? And we have a learning approach in general, which covers kind of 4 areas. If you think of 4 circles, this is kind of where they meet in the middle. This is where that sustained growth happens, that embodiment happens. So one of the key ingredients is around what we call kind of colliding perspectives, thinking of things, starting to kind of flex your thinking, bend some of the ways in which you previously perceived the world, to start to think of it slightly differently. And not only think of the world slightly differently, thinking of who you are within that and how you wish to behave, how you wish to lead, from a self-leadership perspective, which then influences those around you. So colliding perspectives. Another one is around what we call heat experiences. So really safe heat experiences, but where you are challenged in a really safe environment to move beyond what you currently know. And that's a really great way of learning as well. And having that opportunity of really supportive feedback through that, and often those are our worst nightmares, and actually turn out to be our best learnings through those. There's Tan's smiling wryly and nodding her head at the moment, having been through the programme. Assisted sense making. So this discussion, this way of sharing, talking, understanding others' perspectives, learning from the stories that others share to learn for ourselves as well. And then embodying how we live that, how we do that continually, walking through uncertainty, our own and others, and supporting ourselves and others to keep in that balance between the emotion and the logic to get where we need to go and what we need to do done effectively, but particularly through change and chaos, where it's obviously more volatile and can be more volatile. So that the kind of those and that embodiment is yes, practice. It's a muscle, and there are certain techniques and things that we can use as well. So amazing feedback there. And just to share around, we've got a slide, I don't know if we need it, Phil, around, there's a brilliant slide, I think Phil hopefully will bring it up, here we go. Next, around no development without balancing both our personal development and our professional development, and our personal growth and our professional development. We develop from the inside out. Our thinking needs time, and our being, our kind of how we're being we need time to catch up with how we want to be and actually learn to live that. And that is a really, really important part of our experience and the participants' experience for future-proof leadership and the programme, in that it's over a time period. And in terms of, kind of a participant experience, Tan, you've been through the programme. So I'm just looking at finding joy in chaos to learn more. Thank you, Tan, for that recommendation. So I was going to share a bit about my story, but Tan, would you like to share a minute or two about what your experience was of the programme in terms of future-proof leadership?
Yeah, talk about creating heat experiences in a safe place. Is there anything particularly, or should I just talk generally about my experience?
Yeah, specifically, I think what you took away, how you're different now, and how that's continued to serve you, even though you finished the programme, quite a while ago now.
Yeah, I think that, so there's a few models that we look at, and the be, do, achieve was really something that stuck out to me. To being who you want to be, to then do the things you want to do, to then achieve the things you want to achieve, and not just skipping ahead to achieving, because it might require some things maybe more deeply within you. And I think that is maybe why I'm, attracted to self-awareness and things like that first, before I think about where to go next. And I think it's had an impact on me in some of the projects I've started taking out at work as well. So yeah, it was a very interesting, almost like a personal journey for me, starting off with FPF. So thanks.
Fantastic, thank you, Tan. And similarly, for those who don't know, I was a participant in October 21. And so through that programme, I was an independent coach at the time, and I love collaborating with people, and I've been kind of within the Holos community, but not actually part of what we call faculty for 5 years previously, coming to Holocon, for example. So I went on the programme, Future-Proof Leadership, and what I then discovered, part of my personal growth was around, actually, I love working interdependently. I do that with clients all the while, but actually how I'm being and how I'm operating in my professional work life, as in having my own business, doesn't naturally suit with that desire. So having the opportunity, I then applied to join faculty within Holos, was successful, and had this fabulous opportunity to co-facilitate the programme, which has been immense. It's also meant that I've had the opportunity of growing. I mean, my growth has been exponential in terms of personal and professional, I would say. In terms of knowing the Holos models, that's another huge thing, and Tan alluded to it from what you shared. Those models are so key to understanding how Holos thinks and how you can explain things and clearly articulate them. So really do feel free to contact me if you wish to learn more. I'm conscious of time, and Phil wanted to give you the opportunity just to share a little more.
Yeah, I've got just a couple of things for those who might be interested. I'm just finding the slide again. Okay, so if you go on the program, you'll be able to say it by the end. Future-proof leadership. What does that actually mean? It means, like I was saying, this kind of holding these two worlds of leadership and facilitation. Mastering emergent facilitation. When we designed the program, we started with what the state of the art is in facilitation in terms of what it is that facilitators are having to do to meet the demands of a post-conventional age. And that means expanding both your practical and your emotional skill set. So this comes back to professional development and personal growth. Now I'm going to show you a mind-boggling diagram of the program for those who are interested in how it works, and I'll just spend a couple of minutes telling you. Rest assured, it feels much simpler when you're actually on it, going through it. So you have a 360 degree instrument that starts the program, that you get some personal one-to-one time with, and you'll set your learning goals. That's the bit on the left. In the middle, over a period of 2 to 3 months, you've got an opening half day, which is the green on the left. You've got a closing half day, which is the green on the right. And in between, there are 4 focus areas, 1 day each on each of those focus areas. And the structure of the program starts with more reliability. You remember I talked about the 2 qualities of reliability and, we would say, adaptability to deal with the post-conventional environment. We start fairly reliably with some models, with firm agendas, with a structure. By the end of the program, we've gone into adaptability, much more open-ended, participant-driven, working with what is there, basically. You would also find that you're in a learning pod with other participants and they generally tend to carry on after the program is finished because people find them so valuable. So they're a kind of action learning set, if you like. You have a personal change project, which you take on. And this doesn't sound like value for money if I say you don't get any help with it from us. It gives a little bit. But the idea is that you are constantly, while the program is running, you are working simultaneously on some big challenge of your own. So you can get help and support from faculty and other participants, but we don't have formal sessions on it. And you get a lovely certificate at the end, apart from all the personal development and professional development and personal growth. And then there are, as Angela said, there are opportunities to become closer in the Holos community and work more closely with Holos. That's something that we pick up at the end of the program. And if you're interested in that, we can facilitate contact with Holos. If anyone has any, let me come out of that. If anyone has any burning questions about the program, we do have a few minutes if you'd like to ask them now, or as Angela said, you can contact us outside of Holocon. Just let us know what you'd like to know. And if you want to have a conversation with us, that's fine too. We can arrange a time to have a chat. And you can talk about what you're interested in. Was there anything that anyone would like to know that we can tell you now?
So I have also put in the chat the brochure, or the one sheet that we have tells you all about the program, and also some frequently asked questions as well. So and Tess has kindly put both Phil and my email addresses in there too. So yeah, please get in contact if you'd like to know more. We'd love to share more, and kind of any further questions.
And I'll just add that we obviously have an enthusiasm for people coming on our program, but if for any reason it's not for you, what we invite you to do is continue reflecting on the little boxes that we've been opening today, about that relationship for you between leadership and facilitation, about those kind of core qualities and skills that you need and how you might develop them. So, take this as a springboard to something of your own, as well as obviously a door opening to possibility of the program, if that's what you like. So
I guess I could ask a question if no one else has got one. Maybe one for you, Phil, and about Angela as well. I obviously did it last year and you're doing it again this year. So what do you like about it?
Oh, what do I like about the program? What I like is the fact that it is that people arrive in a funny kind of way already fully formed. it's not a program that takes a load of people who can't do something and tries to get them to do it by the end. It's a program that takes people who are highly skilled and capable and helps them to just reframe their own skills and capabilities, build on them and build on others, and just go away with some different kind of perspectives that enable you to use your skills and qualities in a different way. I think off the top of my head, that would be for me the thing that I like the most.